from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Crop conditions state by state and worries about fertility, plus an update on pending trade negotiations in agribusiness, the demand of ethanol.
It looks like E15 is getting more traction than it ever has before.
On Drovers TV, working out the details for shipping beef to China and researching an ancient fish in Louisiana and its connection to humans.
Agday, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. Commodity markets balancing a bit following Tuesday's crop progress report that showed 65% of the nation's corn crop is rated good to excellent. Those numbers have farmers, traders, and analysts mumbling following weeks of heavy rain and replants in some major corn growing areas. Our friend Arlen Suderman posting on Twitter that first corn ratings were below 70% good to excellent in 9 of the past 20 years. Now 5 of those 9 years produced final yields above the 30-year trend line, while first ratings as low as 63% good to excellent produced above trend yields twice and matched trend a third time in that same period.
The crop rating, the 65% of the crop progress report, that is off from 72% of last year. There's 91% of the corn is in right now, but that's still well behind where we were last year. So there's a lot of issues in play. It looks like our volatility is going to pick up. We had some big time volume today in the corn. So this has got everyone's attention. There could be a lot more activity to come going forward.
Now, state by state, the corn crop is the haves versus the have-nots, and it's divided by the Mississippi River. In the west and northwestern corn belt, Iowa, 73% good to excellent. Nebraska, 76%. Minnesota comes in at 68%. But to the east, about half of the Illinois crop is good to excellent. Indiana, 43%. And Ohio sits at 49%. Now, in those areas drying out from heavy rains are concerns about nitrogen loss. University of Illinois agronomist Emerson Navzinger says it's a bit too early to worry. If soils dry out, the rain stop, and the sun shines, conditions should improve, adding that some of the color issues may be due to cooler temperatures and abundant rain.
If by the middle of June, some fields have really greened up nicely and others have not, then we might need to think about those that haven't, and is there enough nitrogen missing there that's causing that to take place? I would be very reluctant to make a decision now that we need to go put more nitrogen on, especially if we've put the full amount on. If we still need to side dress and we add 10 or 15 or 20 pounds to that, I don't have a problem with that. But I think it's premature to decide that so much of the nitrogen is gone that we've put out there that we need to go back and plan to put more on at this point.
Spring wheat off to a strong start across the northern tier of states and into the Pacific Northwest. Overall, 62% is rated good to excellent, but some individual states show much stronger numbers. Idaho, 3/4 there is good to excellent. A third of the state's wheat is excellent. And in Minnesota, 96% is good to excellent. Widespread showers across Texas last week slowed up winter wheat harvest. 22% is now cut, up just 2 points in the last week. It's 7 points ahead of average, while in Oklahoma, winter wheat harvest is struggling to get started. It's 3% done, 7 points behind the 5-year average. Cotton planting, well, it's on pace, just 1 tick behind the 5-year average in the top states. That's according to USDA. Planting is picking up in Perrington, Texas, where producer Ryan Johnson has been rolling his planter since mid-May. He says the area has seen rain and snow all over the last 60 days since those wildfires rolled through that area. But the excess moisture may entice farmers to grow more cotton.
The ones that are actually switching last minute are going to be cotton guys. They're like, well, now that we've got moisture, it's worth a try. But, they're guys that haven't grown cotton before, but, they're kind of looking at it as an opportunity with some subsoil moisture as far as that goes to try to raise some dryland cotton.
Gin managers in the Texas Panhandle are preparing and expecting an increase in cotton acres this season as well.
This has been a phenomenal year for moisture, deep moisture, the kind of moisture that we can plant cotton in and expect to make a crop. And we're getting it in, and we're getting it up. And we've had a lot of rain delays, and people are starting to get nervous. We're nearing the end of our planting window because of the timeliness. But I don't know how many dryland acres are going to be out there, but I get calls every day. Hey, I planted 700 acres of dryland, and these are people that couldn't even spell cotton last year.
Key says he credits the potential increase in cotton acres due to price, weather, and of course last year's record crop there in the Panhandle. Also from USDA, nominees for the department's political posts are expected soon. There are nearly a dozen political positions that require confirmation by the U.S. Senate and nearly 200 political appointees yet to be announced. Sources telling Politico that Secretary Perdue has made his picks, and those picks could be announced this month. Secretary Perdue also continuing a busy travel schedule this week. He's slated to attend the Montana Ag Summit along with a team of Mexican barley and malt importers visiting the U.S. It's part of a trip arranged by the U.S. Grains Council ahead of the NAFTA negotiations. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister telling lawmakers this week that negotiations over NAFTA will start mid-August, which is the earliest possible, according to U.S. laws. That leaves only a few months before political obstacles start popping up, causing potential delays. Canadian press reports say that pre-negotiation consultations will take several months and are getting started. Also on trade, the 11 remaining member nations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership are moving on with finalizing that agreement without the United States. The countries agreeing on a November 10th deadline as the recent Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit in Vietnam. Mike Hoffman joining us now with a look at fields across the country. Here's today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Lauren Turley from Webster County, Kentucky, sending us this photo. He says, according to USDA, the week ending May 28th, Kentucky had almost 4 days suitable for field work. And a viewer from Branch County, Michigan, writing to AgWeb. The farmer says this planting season has been a challenge. The area had 8 inches of rain since the last week in April and only 12 field working days during the month of May. The producer says he planted in June before, but the yield impact is going to be severe. And taking a look at the weather map, you can see a huge dome of high pressure keeping most of the Corn Belt dry as we head through the next couple of days, but the system out west will be moving east. We'll have your forecast coming up. First, here are some hometown temps.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com. Offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search, let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
All right, when we come back, we'll look at the demand side of the ledger and talk ethanol in today's agribusiness segment. Plus, this fish has a snout that looks more like an alligator, but in some ways, it could be more human than fish. Find out why as we head in the country.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.
And agribusiness markets were mixed in midweek. Let's get the close from our friends on the floor.
Soybeans were steady today. Futures were really stabilizing after a 4-day sell-off. The market really started to move sideways, or just kind of some consolidated buying. Corn, on the other hand, had a really big rebound. We were up 10 cents at one point. The USD, the surprise bullish crop progress report, really gave the market a big boost today. It was up 10 cents at one point. The cattle market was really firm today. The futures were still staying strong in spite of the bearish news that came out. Wholesale beef prices were a little bit lower. There has been like a growing cattle supplies in the pipeline that you would think would have been weighing the market down. The hog market is still climbing again. It looks like this rally started back April 24th continues again. Hog supplies were tight today with the seasonal tightening of the whole market right now. Lightweight animals are expected, and that's really keeping the market to move to again another new high today. It certainly looks like this is it's hard to sell this market as it continues to move higher. That's all from the floor at the CME Group. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Tyne Morgan joining us this morning with an update on the ethanol industry and its impact on demand. Here's Tyne.
Here now with Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge. We're here at the Indianapolis 500 Speedway. These cars run on ethanol, so we need to talk ethanol for a little bit. 2017, Ted, do you think that it could be an interesting year for ethanol?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got things on both sides of the equation. We're likely losing some exports of both ethanol and DDGs to China and possibly Brazil, but we should be picking up some imports or exports to India and then also domestically. As you know, I've been a big proponent of building the E85 demand base. I really think we should be doing that. I think there's an opportunity to do that. However, increasing the blend is another way to get more ethanol demand done. It looks like E15 is getting more traction than it ever has before. If we can get RVP, read vapor pressure extended, waiver extended to blends above and beyond E10, that could really increase ethanol demand and consumption here in the United States, and that could be very good for ethanol. But currently, the USDA has ethanol demand or ethanol production going up 50 million bushel. I hope that's optimistic, or I mean, I hope that's conservative. I hope it's better than that.
But Ted, we've tried to increase it to E15. So what makes it different now? Is it this new administration? Really, what's changed that you think we could actually get these blends higher now?
I think it's a combination of time and the fact that the consumer has gotten a little bit more comfortable with the idea and that we've educated a little bit more. But I also do think this administration has a lot to do with that.
What about the impact of these cheaper gasoline prices? How has that impacted ethanol, or will continue to impact ethanol demand?
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, but I think the best way to look at it for the blend is that if we are looking at low gas prices and we're looking at increased consumption, then if we're increasing the blend, that can increase our ethanol consumption as well. It doesn't bode well for E85 consumption necessarily, but that's a different story.
All right, Ted Seifert with Zaner Ag. Thanks so much. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a moment.
For professional marketing advice specifically tailored to your needs, call Zaner Ag Hedge at 312-277-0113. Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, I know we're wrapping up spring. At some point, we're going to start summer here. We're in June. Have you seen any changes in patterns at all?
The pattern's trying to change, but it's still kind of a cool one for the northeastern quadrant of the country, which includes parts of the Corn Belt. You can see high pressure dominating most of the Corn Belt this morning, except for some areas of showers and thunderstorms in parts of Kansas and Nebraska out ahead of that next warm front, which is basically the cold front turning around. So for a while here, we are going to have a very slow-moving weather pattern, very slow-moving area of high pressure moving across the lower Great Lakes, Ohio Valley into the Tennessee Valley, keeping things dry for a change for at least 2 or 3 days before that next system starts to come eastward. We also have kind of a disturbance in the upper atmosphere over parts of the Rio Grande Valley. We've been talking about this. It'll cause some afternoon mainly showers and thunderstorms, but there will be some morning activity as well, as you can see right there. Parts of West Texas tomorrow morning. Also a tropical-like system coming into the western Gulf. No signs of that developing, but nonetheless it is starting to move northeastward, or northward I should say, and we'll have to watch that one. Front through the southeast will still cause some showers and thunderstorms, especially during the afternoon hours. Parts of Florida, southern Georgia, and the Gulf Coast areas as well. And there's that warm front causing a few areas of showers and maybe thunder showers as it moves into the western lakes and northern Mississippi Valley tomorrow afternoon. Precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours, the majority of the heavy stuff has been in the Gulf Coast region. Not everywhere, but depends on who got the heavier thunderstorms. Adding in the next 36 hours, you can see how things do progress with some pretty heavy amounts. Parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, a few spots in Florida, but you can see how little rain for a change across most of the middle and eastern portions of the country, except in Maine. Temperatures this afternoon back into the 80s for the high plains. Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, 70s, warming up across the Ohio Valley, southwestern Great Lakes. Low temperatures tonight going to be pretty pleasant, as you can see, across most of the middle of the country. Pretty muggy down along the Gulf Coast. And then tomorrow afternoon, our model, that red area, is actually showing some 90s developing over the dry soils of parts of South Dakota and North Dakota. So that could be an issue as we head through time. As you can see there, lots of 80s, though, for much of the center of the country. Jet stream as we head through the rest of the week. Still that cool air mass over the northeast, that cutoff flow. And you can see that kind of hangs around Great Lakes into the northeast for most of the time over the next week or so, with another little system dipping in, it looks like, by later next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Burns, Oregon. First of all, mixture of clouds and sunshine. Could be a thunderstorm in spots, high of 71. Denton, Texas, warm and humid. A couple of showers and thunderstorms around, high of 88. In Mansfield, Ohio, beautiful. Good deal of sunshine, a high of 74.
Dates are a major export product for Tunisia, but an outbreak of the red palm weevil could jeopardize the industry. The beetle has spread from Asia to the Middle East and now threatens the date palm trees in Tunisia. The invaders bore holes in tree trunks and lay eggs. Now, once mature, the larvae bore into the trunk and the palms turn brown. The state ag researchers there say the insect is very fertile. It can lay about 300 eggs and moves about 10 miles a day. Tunisia exports 100,000 tons of the fruit annually. Negotiators trying to work on technical details on a trade deal that could boost demand for U.S. beef. We've got details from our partners over at Drovers. That's next. And fisheries students are wrangling some tough-looking customers to find out more about their survivability as a species. We're going for gar later on Agday. Negotiations, which would lead to a restart of beef exports to China, are said to be moving fast. Reuters reporting that final details could be in place by early this month. The two sides are facing a deadline that would see beef shipments started by mid-July. Our partners over at Drovers say China will accept U.S. fresh, chilled beef product as well as frozen. Negotiators are working on final technical details. Now, as part of the deal, U.S. beef would be tested for growth-promoting hormones.
China will test all beef for residues upon entry, and there will be a distinction between synthetic and naturally occurring hormones. If traces of synthetic hormones are found, the meat will be rejected. Traces of naturally occurring hormones such as estradiol are found, the meat will be rejected if those levels are above those naturally occurring in cattle.
Henderson says China has also agreed to amend their traceability requirements for U.S. beef. Under the proposal, China will only require the animal's birth, farm, and slaughter plant to be documented. China will accept beef from animals 30 months of age or younger, a standard that the majority of U.S. fed cattle already meet. Feeder cattle futures finding strength this week on news out of India. That government banning the trade of cattle for purposes other than dairying or field work, effectively outlawing beef production from the world's largest herd. India has 300 million head of cattle and exported 1.3 billion tons of beef last year, mostly to other Asian countries. As Agday continues, we look at efforts to learn more about an ancient fish and their close ties to humans in the country is next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. See the hardest working tractors in ag at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Scientists at the LSU Aquaculture Research Station are conducting research on alligator gar to get a better understanding of this ancient fish. While their numbers are holding steady in Louisiana, they are becoming less common in other areas of the country. LSU Ag Center's Craig Gautreaux has the story.
Alligator gar have undergone few evolutionary changes throughout history. Researchers are studying the gar at the LSU Ag Center Aquaculture Research Station for genetics and reproductive purposes.
They've been able to persist for so long, and we want to try to figure out what are some of those things, parts of their genetics, their physiology, their life histories that have allowed them to survive so well.
Chris Green, a scientist at the station, has studied the gar for the past 7 years. Part of his work involves looking for ways to build on existing research related to fish production and increase the spawning success of the gar.
We all kind of share those resources to learn what works the best and develop a way to move forward in terms of making the fish spawn, making the babies, and making those babies grow up to then be stocked out into our waters.
Surprisingly, gar could be considered more closely related to humans than fish. This opens up an avenue of research on gar that may benefit people.
They're basically more genetically similar to humans than they are to other fishes. And so we can use information from those teleost fishes and use the gar to kind of translate it to be more applicable for human medicine.
Capturing the gar proved to be a challenge, with some weighing more than 50 pounds. As part of the research, they were identified by a chip reader, weighed, and then injected with a hormone that would stimulate reproduction processes. Another unique feature is gar breathe air when water temperatures become hot.
For some reason, their gills are not as effective, so they have to switch over to aerial respiration. So they come up and they like this, and they actually physically have to open their mouths to suck in air, just like we have to breathe.
The fish were placed in holding tanks where they will spawn in 24 to 48 hours. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Thanks, Craig. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Start your day with us. From Mike Hoffman and all of us here at Agday, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.